Why your fat loss progress has stalled. I chucked a video up on TikTok about this and you guys really enjoyed it and you had a lot of questions, so I thought it'd be good to make a longer form content video of this, because although those short videos are great and they can be very, very helpful, everything on social media, and especially in the fitness industry, it's about context. So it's very hard to give all the details in a short 30-second video. So I hope this helps. The reason why your fat loss progress has stalled may be a lot of things, but we're going to talk about if you are being absolutely consistent and compliant to your diet and it was previously working and now it's not working. So the first thing that's probably happening is the calories you were previously on are probably now your maintenance calories. Let's just say, for example, you started at 90 kgs, you've lost a good 10 kilos, you're now 80 kilos. You're now a smaller human, which means you require less calories on a day-to-day basis. Therefore, what was your previous calorie deficit is probably now your maintenance calories. You may have heard the word metabolic adaptation thrown around on social media before. This is kind of what this is. So there's a few things that occur here with metabolic adaptation. All you really need to know is that you've adapted to the current calories you're on, and you're gonna have to make some changes if you wanna keep making progress. So before we move on, you need to know what actually makes up the calories that we burn on a day-to-day basis. So the biggest one of all being us as a person, this is your BMR. This stands for basal metabolic rate. Your BMR, or basal metabolic rate, basically means the amount of calories that you burn in a coma, doing absolutely nothing, just lying there. So this is going to be things like your age. This is going to be things like your weight, your age, your height, etc. The next biggest thing that makes up the calories we burn is going to be your NEAT, or your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Now in simple, this basically just means all the calories that you burn on a day-to-day basis that isn't structured exercise. So this is things like fidgeting with my hands, this is your daily steps, this is, you know, tapping your feet, things like that. Now, as you can see on the chart here, this takes up a much bigger portion than our actual structured exercise. So this is why you hear people say, increase your daily steps, or you should aim for 10K steps, or whatever the number is. This is because this contributes to a lot of our daily calories burned. This can also contribute to the reason why you're not losing body fat. So if you were previously, let's say that 90 kgs and you were doing, let's say 10,000 steps, it's just rough examples here. You've come down to 80 kgs. So like I said, your BMR is now less, you need less calories. Your NEAT, say you're doing 10K steps, that might have also dropped as well. You might only be averaging 8K steps now as well, which means you need even less. So there is simple ways that you can make sure that this isn't happening. The first simple way, of course, is to make sure that you are moving the same on a day-to-day basis. So you can use simple things like tracking your daily steps to do this. Obviously, it's never gonna be 100% accurate, but it's gonna be as good as we can get. Moving on from that, we have TEF, or thermic effect of food. Now, as you can see here, this also takes up a small portion of the amount of calories we burn on a day-to-day basis. Now, if this probably won't have changed if you're still eating the same amount of calories as you were before you hit this fat loss plateau. As a side note, protein is the highest thermic effect of food. Now, thermic effect of food means when we're eating the food and we're digesting it, the amount of calories our body is using to digest and process that food, that's thermic effect of food. So protein has the highest of this, which is just another good reason why your diet should be high in protein, because you will burn a few more extra calories than if you're on a low protein diet. Moving up from that, we have EAT, or exercise activity thermogenesis. Now this is basically your workouts, your training, all of your structured exercise you do on a day-to-day basis. As you can see, this takes up the smallest portion of the entire amount of calories we burn on a day-to-day basis. And this, as a side note, is another reason why you can never out-train a bad diet. All right, great, Alex. Now I know how we burn calories, but how do I actually fix this plateau? Because that's what you care about, right? So now you know how we burn calories on a day-to-day basis. We can go ahead and fix this fat loss plateau for you. Now, there's a couple of ways you can do this. I'm gonna keep this super simple. So the first way you can do this is to decrease your calories from what they're currently at. A super simple guide for this is gonna be to deduct about 5 to 10% of your current calories. So if you're currently on 2,500 calories, you could go ahead and drop an extra 250 calories off that per day. So you're now gonna be eating about 2,250 per day. The second way we can do this is to increase our NEAT, or our EAT. So now you know what that chart means. This is gonna make more sense. So if we want to increase our energy output, we can do this from our NEAT or our EAT. So our NEAT, our non-exercise activity thermogenesis, the simplest way to do this is just increasing your daily steps, because that's the only real way we can track it with like an Apple Watch or some sort of smartwatch, or even your phone. Might not be as accurate, but at least it will be consistent. What I recommend from here is not jumping to some crazy number. Just track, if you're not tracking, track what you're already doing on a day-to-day basis, your average steps, and just increase it from there. So if you're already doing say 7,000 steps per day, you could jump to 9,000 steps per day. And the last way we can increase our energy expenditure is through that EAT portion, so that exercise activity thermogenesis. Now, this is probably the last place you're going to want to do it if you're already maxed out on session. So if you're already training 4, 5, 6 times a week, if you already are doing some structured cardio, then you're probably going to want to keep that the same, and you're going to want to either increase your daily steps or decrease your calories. Whichever one you choose to do, whether it's decreasing the amount of calories you're eating on a daily basis or increasing the amount of energy output that you're doing, it's entirely up to you. It's personal preference, and it will highly depend on what you're already currently doing. Now, my advice for this though is I highly recommend just picking one of those options first, because we don't want to use all of our cards at once, and you probably will hit another plateau later if you're trying to lose a lot of body fat or you're trying to get very lean. So let's say, for example, now we choose to decrease our calories by 10%. We drop another 5 kilos, we found ourselves at another fat loss plateau. What could we do then? We could then keep our calories where they are because we're already hungry as hell. We could just increase our daily NEAT, so we could increase our daily steps, or if we do have room, we could add in another weight training session, or if we do have room, more cardio, something like that. That's as simple as it needs to be. So like I mentioned at the start, you're probably around about maintenance calories now if you have hit that plateau, because if you were in a deficit, you'd still be losing body fat. So therefore you're not in a deficit anymore. So we just need to recreate that deficit. So you could either do this by decreasing those calories or increasing that energy output. I know that sounds crazy simple, but it is simple. It is simple to do. It's just not easy because obviously sticking to diets, sticking to low calories, or sticking to our training all the time, life gets in the way. It does get hard. So this is why I always recommend sustainability and picking whichever one of these options is going to suit you the best. And this is why it is personal preference. And with my clients, for example, I'll always ask them, give them the option first. First of all, say, are you hungry on your current diet? Because if you are already very hungry on the current calories, we probably don't want to pull them down anymore, because you're just going to be even hungry and you're not going to be able to sustain it. So we may want to increase your daily steps, or if you're only weight training 3 times a week, can we go to 4? And on the other hand, if you're not really hungry at all and you're fine, then I would just decrease the calories. It's always going to be the easiest and the most simplest way. So that's why your fat loss progress has stalled. I personally find if you know the reasons why, not just like do this, and you also now you know the reasons how to fix that, it will make a lot more sense. And when you come to make your decisions, at least you can make an informative decision on your current situation, and you know the reasons why this is happening and where you should go from there. I hope that was helpful. I plan to keep these fitness tips as simple as possible to understand, as easy to implement as possible, because I just want you to get results as fast as possible. And if that was helpful, I would appreciate it if you can smash a like and consider subscribing. Let me know if any questions, and I'll see you guys in the next one.